This land specifically, this area here, it has stamps of time, placed upon it. We often say that even though the soil, has been destroyed and those visual aspects of it, those earthen mounds are long gone, it doesn't belay the fact that, our ancestors are buried in and amongst these areas here yet, and they're just as important today as they were back when they were placed there.
A lot of investigators already in the 19th century had noted that this particular area in Wisconsin had a huge concentration of Indian mounds, and especially those mounds that we call effigy mounds. And these are the mounds that were made in the form of animals and spirit beings by people roughly between 700 and about 1000 AD. Lake Monona, we know, had over 200 mounds in clusters at 27 locations, including an area around this particular property. Now, the people that made the mounds are, of course, native peoples who had lived here for 11,000 years. Right after the glaciers had left, people moved in, and sometime during the late 1700s, people we know as the Ho-Chunk expanded into this area, however, lost this land and were meant to be all removed west of the Mississippi River. But the people who refused to be removed were recognized by the federal government only in the 1960s as the Ho-Chunk Nation.
Whatever you think of tribes, that has happened to the Ho-Chunk people, and yet we're still here. We don't have much of a land base per se legally in Madison, Day-Jope area, but we still call this ancestrally our home. And that's first and foremost is what we try to get across to our children.
I think it's a mystery, and sometimes a mystery of about place is really where the story is. The story that dates way before it was called San Damiano, right? I think that's the exciting part, is to really connect the dots.
So Frank Allis was born in Milwaukee in 1865, the 8th of 12 children. He wasn't going to go anywhere in that Allis-Chalmers factory. So the family sent him to Madison and thought maybe he could become a gentleman farmer. In 1893, he built the house. The architect is a Milwaukee architect, William Kimball. After Frank Allis died in 1915, a Dr. Herman Gilbert bought the house. And also, back in the 1920s, the Norbertine priests had been coming to Madison, and they were the chaplain for St. Mary's Hospital when Dr. Gilbert was there and when the Mahoney sisters were helping out. And so the Mahoney sisters bought the Frank Allis house from Dr. Gilbert and held it. I think they knew that they wanted to be able to offer it to the Norbertines for a novitiate for their young priests in training. And so that's what happened, is that the Mahoney sisters sold the property to the Norbertines to use as a novitiate. They never used it other than walking and meditating and contemplating and just a little bit of recreation. So that's why it's remained this wonderful big open space.
Putting this property in the hands of Monona means it's going to be cared for. It's going to be part of that larger stewardship agenda and the spirit of really caring for natural spaces, preserving that deep connection to the water.
Most of us are not going to be fortunate enough to own lakefront property ourselves to be able to enjoy the lakes. So we rely on those publicly accessible points of entry, those gateways to our lakes. And the more opportunities we have to allow for that to happen, the more people are going to care for our lakes. They're going to have connections to them. They're going to have relationships with those lakes. If we don't have these types of properties, people will be more disconnected from the waters that we're trying to improve and protect. And there's going to be less community will and less interest to invest the dollars necessary to make the actions happen that we need to have happen to improve water quality.
As a parent, it makes me so happy that we're giving our kids just another way to connect to nature. You know, green space is so necessary for any community. It creates space for people to come together, to connect with one another, for families to gather and children to run and play.
This space and its naturalness and its natural setting really speaks to what I see as a new movement in public and urban spaces, in the fact that we are starting to appreciate the benefits of natural settings on the human psyche, on the human mood, and on our ability to kind of balance our recent fascination with technology that has kind of overtaken us. And so to have these things available is incredibly important, especially with children.
There's much more than the property itself. You know, what you do here actually reflects upon the community. What you do here reflects upon the water that's behind me, and vice versa. There should be a vested interest on what is happening on that water, or what is happening above us. Everything you do here should offer something that we can pass on to the future generations as something that was good.
How many other communities in this area have this? This is our jewel. And when we provide people with an opportunity to connect to that lake and this natural space, it gives them a reason to love it. And when you love a place, you work to protect it.